Madobe, Afwan, Afwan. In the name of Maulisa, in the name of Todela, in the name of AC, in the name of all my voodoos, all my ancestors, I approach you all in the spirit of love and fraternity and understanding. I had to start out with a intro like that because of where I'm fitting to go. If you read the caption already, it says, "Who are the African Americans really?" And I'm gonna tell you what sparked this conversation. Y'all know I got a history in the military. I used to be a soldier in the United States Army, and so as such, I'm a retired soldier and everything. So as such, I get access to the VA benefits and stuff like that. I went to the VA, and while I was there at the VA, I went to one of the ladies that worked there, and she said to me, uh, "Y'all know I used to have a what Malcolm X used to call him a slave name. I don't call it a slave name. It's just a name that is not connected to my ancestry. I used to have one of those." And according to the VA and the DOD, I still got that name currently. So I went to the VA to get that fixed. I wanted to make sure that the documentation has my current name, Nana Togo Messi, instead of my old name. Okay? That old name is no longer applicable to me on a lot of different levels. And there's a reason why I changed it like that. And so I go in there to get the name changed, and I went to this one office to get that started. And the lady said, "Oh, you're changing your name. May I ask why you're changing your name?" Common questions, decent question. I don't mind answering it. Some people have a problem with the answer I give, and that too is okay. It's whatever. So I tell the lady, I says, well, I kind of pulled a Alex Haley, and I did my little roots, and I found out where I'm from and who my people are and their names. And in the process, I also earned my own names. And she said, "Oh," I said, "Oh, here we go." I gave her a smile. And she says, "Well, you know, you're Hebrew Israelite, right? You're not African." I said, "Okay, yeah, I'm not a Hebrew Israelite." She said, "Yes, you are. You came over as a slave, right? Your ancestors, they came over here as slaves." I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, then you're a Hebrew Israelite." I was like, "No, no, my story is more like a episode of the Game of Thrones than it is like anything the Hebrew Israelites are talking about." I said, "But that's okay." Because she wanted to say more, and I had things to do. I would have loved to sit there and have that conversation with her, but I had things to do, places to be, moves to make. So I said, "Listen, I love you, brothers and sisters like that. You Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters. I appreciate what you do for yourselves and for those who need what you got. I'm not a Hebrew Israelite. You are, if you say you are. I am not one. And that is okay. I still love and respect you." And then I moved on about my business. I had a co-worker, also a young female, that I worked with who told me she is not from Africa, she's a black woman, right? But she has no African ancestry. I said, "Well, where are you from?" She says, "I'm from the Bahamas or Barbados, Jamaica, one of the islands. I can't remember which one." And I was like, "But they're from." Never mind. I don't get into telling people who they are and where they're from. However, if I have this rush of people coming in telling me who I am and where I'm from, then I feel like that's the spirits telling me that I need to address this issue. So I'm going to address this issue. Number one, all Black Americans, people, so called Black Americans, are not Hebrew Israelites. Number two, all so-called Black Americans are not melanated indigenous peoples. And number three, all Black Americans are not African Americans. I said all of that. Because that is what the voodoos have revealed. Because I asked the question, because you hear this, you hear that, and you get all these people that come out the woodwork with all this circumstantial BS, and they'll arrange it so that it paints the picture of what they're trying to push out. But when you go to spirits and you say, okay, what the truth look like, they'll tell you something totally different. It had nothing to do with that shit. So that's what I did. I asked them, what's the truth? And the spirits revealed to me that there are some Black Americans who do indeed share blood, descend from the 12 tribes of Israel. There are some. There are some Black Americans who do indeed share blood with the indigenous people of the United States. They're there. Few of them. But what they also said is that there are some who do not come here by way of West Africa, which means to be an African American, technically, you have to be a descendant of the West African slave trade. Otherwise, you are an American citizen of African descent or some other mixed up thing. So, what does that mean? What that means is, because what they also said was this: the problem with both of these groups, of the people who claim to be these things, is that they don't know who they are. I said, well, wait a minute now. If you descend from the 12 tribes of Israel and you claim to be a Hebrew Israelite, and the spirits are saying that you actually do descend from, how is it that they don't know who they are? And the spirits explained it to me. So I'm explaining it to you. They said that the 12 tribes of Israel is not the story of the Israelite people, right? Because they got their story from who we were before we, the airway, who we were before we got to West Africa. So, in other words, the people who call themselves Hebrew Israelites are, in fact, the native people of West Africa. Because the native people of West Africa trace their own lineage to East Africa. Every one of those groups do. Hausa, Fulani, Mina, Gu, Fon, Yoruba, Biafra, Airway, all of them trace their origins to East Africa, and it's part of their stories. And you'll not notice if you're looking for the truth on the internet or in the Bible or somebody else's book. But if you go to these people in these villages, you sit down with the old men, sit down with them old women, and you listen to what they say, they'll tell you, oh no, in my grandfather's time, we walked from over there to over here. Huh. So that's what the old folks did. They walked. And if you really pay attention and you do your digging and you talk to people, like I talk to people, then you'll know that they'll talk about the trip they took, how they went about getting over here. They all started as one group and they all left, and then they went different ways and ended up in the same spot. Some shot across Tanzania, others followed the river Niger. Some went up and down the daggone Nile on multiple occasions. Some headed south and tried to scoot back up the other way. There's all kinds of permutations of how they actually made them trips from East Africa to West Africa. But they all made that trip. And there's myths that say they all come from this one guy. I don't put too much stock in it, but it's there. If you pay attention to what's in recorded history of the African people, then you know that we all have similar things. We all claim to have spread out from a central location in the western half of West Africa of African continent. So the people who brought you the stories and said it was theirs, it's not their story. So then the question becomes, well, if it's not their story, it is your story, then why are you claiming to be them? And you putting on the trappings of them, and you behaving as the way you imagine that they behaved. And why are you claiming the things that they claim? Not my business. To be perfectly honest, it's not my concern. I'm concerned with one thing: what the Voodoos are saying to do now. And the Voodoos are saying to do now: tell people, if you are subscribing to the idea that you are a melanated indigenous person, that you are subscribing to the idea of you are a Hebrew Israelite, or whatever the other permutations of I'm anything but African is. The Voodoos are saying, tell them it's not like they wrong. You're not wrong in where you end up in your thinking. You're wrong in how you got to thinking that. And that's where people be led to error. Their answer's not wrong. Just the logic to get them to point A to point B is, this is what the Voodoos are telling me. This is what they're saying. Tell these people, because they're not getting it. And the Voodoo said, otherwise I'd have left it alone. The Voodoo said, tell you. I can't tell you. You're reaching out to your origins, but you're fogging yourself in. The Voodoo said, tell them to come get proper divination so they can see what the heck it is they're talking about and how that plays out. Because with the Amangansi and the Afa, you'll see it. You'll see it'll be spelled out for you where you come from, how you got there, what happened in the in-betweens. So that is what the Voodoos are saying, tell them this. So that's what I'm telling you. You're right in where you landed, you're wrong in how you jumped. And it's important. It's important. So I guess that's pretty much it. Oh no, it's not, because I forgot to talk about the melanated peoples, melanated indigenous peoples. The folks that we call Indians today, the folks that we call Cherokee, the folks that we call Choctaw, the folks that we call Shawnee, the folks that we call Tlingit, the folks that we call all these people today, all of them, right? Navajos, all of them. Those are who the Native Americans are, right? They are not lying. They are not twisting facts. They did not steal anything from anybody. That is who they are. That is the God's honest truth of who they are. I've had the privilege of living with these people. They are who they say they are. for those black people who claim that they are the original melanated peoples of America. I have not seen any, I have not received any wisdom that said you are not that. I have not seen any wisdom that said that. But what I have seen from the spirits is that the logic that you're using to make your claim is faulty. It has holes in it, and that it doesn't make sense, right? You can't look at a lithograph and say, see how dark this lithographic picture is? That proves that they were black. That doesn't work that way. You hear what this man said, this proves that they were black. This doesn't. You see these statues got black people features. Yeah, but what you call in black people features are not exclusive to black people. But you see them concentrated most often in people of African descent. All of these different things lead you to the conclusion that no matter how you claiming you got to this continent, you came from Africa. And this is what a lot of people are let go right past them. And it was particularly funny is this one woman who was telling me, you are a Hebrew Israelite, just like me. Turns out, according to divination, this chick is Hausa. Hausa and Ewe. And how that panned out was because of slavery. Before the slave trade. Before the slave trade. She was owned by a Hausa, or her female ancestor was an Ewe owned by a Hausa man. He made a Hausa baby. And it went on down the line that way. See, this is why divination is such a beast. Because it'll tell you stuff folks don't want you to know. But anyway, I'm not going to eat too much of y'all's time. I had to tell y'all this. The spirits was not letting me rest until I told y'all, listen, do not go around telling people who they are, who they ain't. Because even if you know the answer to the statement that you're making, to the question that you're asking, even if that answer is correct, you don't know that it's correct, and you have no idea why. And your understanding of what gets you from point A to point B is in error. So all the subsequent decisions that you make based on that is going to be erroneous as well. So anyway, that's what they told me to tell y'all. So that's what I'm telling you. Go ahead, leave your comments below. I know I got some folks who subscribe to these ideas that check mark my thread. If you disagree, let's talk. Put it out there. Let's have that conversation. I'll gladly have this conversation. I don't mind. But most importantly, don't go around telling other people who they are. You don't know. You don't know until you've done their divination. Either do their divination or do their blood work. Till you've done one of them two things, you don't know. You haven't gone and did their genealogy and checked their genetics, and you'll know. Before I go, y'all people that has 80% Native, 80% African, and 4% Native American, don't go around here yelling at the top of your lungs that you a Native American, all right? Because what you ain't said and you haven't acknowledged is that remaining 15, 20% that's out there that you ain't claiming is European and is larger than that daggone Native American is and smaller than that daggone African. So you cannot go to the smallest piece of your heritage and say, yes, this is who I am. This is not who you are. All right. Embrace who you are. All your ancestors are still your ancestors. And they're the only reason you exist. Even if they're the hated slave masters of our history. All right. Even them, they are responsible for who you are today, for you being today. If it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be here. I ain't telling you you gotta like it. I ain't telling you gotta love it, but I'm telling you gotta acknowledge it. These are your people. It'll make you better than them because they won't acknowledge that they are ours. So anyway, that's all I gotta say about the whole matter. Acknowledge all your blood. You don't really have a choice. That's half the reason why so many people got so many problems because they won't acknowledge all their blood. And you acknowledge all your blood, you ain't gotta like them, you ain't gotta love them, but you gotta acknowledge them. You pay due respect to your ancestors. I ain't saying worship white folk. I'm saying pay due respect to your ancestors, even when they come from Europe, because they are still your people. You would not exist without them. I got them in my family. I could bellyache till I'm purple. But if I don't recognize the fact that I got them in my family and they are the reason why I'm here, the same way as the black ones and the same way as the red ones that I got in my family, if I don't acknowledge that, I'm wrong. And I'm telling you the same thing. If you don't acknowledge the blood you got in your family, you're wrong, and there will be no peace with your kin. None at all. So acknowledge your people. All right, now I'm done. So until next time, love, peace, and chicken grease. My folk, be good to each other. Respect your voodoos, respect your ancestors. Offer them water, strong drink, and cola, and let the happiness flow. Peace.